can't tell you how excited I am to be involved in this, and it's for a number of reasons. The one is just that, as an African, when I first started traveling to Europe, you sort of arrive in Paris or London, and you just see this kind of Lisbon, this wealth of kind of cultural heritage and the way in which it's been used to drive growth and drive economic development. And I sort of have gone back to both my home in South Africa and also other parts of Africa, and I just sort of think this is an opportunity that we really should be talking about. So I'm thrilled to be talking about the subject. I'm also very pleased to see that there is a lot of interest in the audience. I was a little bit worried that given this topic or the surf school breakout outside, I sort of thought we might not manage to get so many people here. And I'm seeing some. Nobody told you about the surf school. Oh, I'm very sorry, but the registration for that is closed, so you're going to talk about culture with us. But let's just start. I mean, Anna, why don't we just start at a very high level, and let's just, before we begin, scope some of the opportunity, both as you've seen it here, but also as you look at African countries.
Well, good morning. Welcome to Portugal, to all of you. I hope that we will have the time to surf together afterwards, but till then, let's see what we can do together, namely looking at Africa and the opportunities we have to develop some projects together. I think that looking at Portugal, you can see an example of a country that arriving late into tourism was a great advantage, and I think Africa is the same. Africa is arriving late to tourism like Portugal, and this has a huge advantage because we learn from the mistakes of others and we take advantages of the trends of the future. And the trends of the future are people want to feel that they are involved in local communities. They want to feel that they discover new places, authentic places, not fake places. They want to discover unique landscapes. They want to be in places where they feel they are the only ones that can have that experience. That happened in Portugal. Portugal was in the right place at the right time to benefit from, of course, some international tendencies. But what we felt is that people were kind of fed up of seeing the same things. And so they wanted to discover new things, and Portugal was in the right place for this, of course, with huge investment from the private and the public sector, with new hospitality facilities, new experiences around heritage, new experiences about natural landscapes, and this put us in a place that made us grow in 3 years 45% in terms of revenue. Results, huge creation of employment. In the last 3 years, 1 out of the 3 new jobs created in Portugal were created by tourism. And at the same time, tourism was this instrument to develop lots of other activities, becoming like an engine of the economy. Right now it represents in Portugal 18% of all our exports, 13.7% of our GDP, and 10% of our employment force. So I do think that it is a very powerful instrument to change countries and to foster other activities, namely agriculture, commerce, even innovation and tech activities. Because what's happening in Portugal, and tourism has been an instrument, a crucial instrument for this, it's that it is a visit card, not only to attract visitors, but mainly to attract new investors, new inhabitants, new students, new people who want to come to Portugal, for example, to work here. Because tourism has created this environment where people feel comfortable. Also, we addressed a huge effort to create air capacity, which is crucial, not only for tourism, for business, for all the activities. So when you tackle tourism, you are tackling crucial areas to attract investment, new people, create jobs, etc. So this is a powerful tool. Of course, if you drive it into, for example, using heritage and putting heritage back into life through tourism, this is also a way to use your natural and cultural resources to put them into, transform it into economic activities.
And let's hold that thought, because I'm going to come back to heritage. But Mossadegh, let's just talk, again, I suppose you've approached this from the other side as an entrepreneur and a business person who's been investing in the sector. I mean, again, the sort of view from 30,000 feet, just about scoping the opportunity and where you see the situation now.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this conference. Tourism today is the #1 industry, driving close to more than 10% of global GDP, creating a lot of jobs in the countries, as the secretary said. And Africa is just coming. We attract barely 70 million tourists a year. I think that's less than what is going to France, which is 80 million, and Spain 70 million. So we have a big industry which can create a lot of jobs on the continent, and we do know that today the #1 problem for the African continent is to create enough jobs to keep the youth on the continent. Unfortunately, we see what's going on in Libya 2 days ago, where immigrants were killed, and also 80 immigrants died in the Mediterranean Sea. So all these immigrants, they leave the continent because of lack of jobs on the continent. So definitely tourism is today one of I would say, the biggest industry where we can create a lot of jobs. We as entrepreneurs, as Alai Hotels Group, we started 25 years ago in Mali. We bought a state-owned hotel, Grand Hotel de Bamako, which was built in 1952 by the French. So we bought it, and with a loan we got from IFC, we refurbished the hotel. And we then built a second hotel, and then we went to Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, where we bought a hotel in Guinea-Bissau, which used to be the Portuguese camp for the officers, Hotel 24 September. Today we have 10 hotels in 6 West African countries, and we are building 4 more hotels in Senegal, Guinea-Conakry, Niger, and Cameroon. So definitely there is a huge opportunity on the tourism sector. We are in the business segment. We cater mainly for business travelers, but also leisure is big. Some countries like Morocco, Kenya, South Africa are really investing on the heritage, as you said. A city like Marrakesh is attracting a lot of tourists because Marrakesh developed a strategy on heritage. And therefore, it's a city which is attracting a lot of tourists. So definitely, with 70 million tourists coming to Africa, we really can create a lot of jobs, a lot more jobs. But that, we need investment. I saw that some DFIs are here. The European Investment Bank is here. This is what we need. We need a lot of investment. We need FDI. We need African investment. We need to invest on also skills. Our group, we had to start a school in Bamako, a hospitality school, because unfortunately the governments in West Africa did not invest in skill development. So we, with our own financial means, we are investing in a hospitality school. So we need investment. We need investment in skills. We need, as she said, we need air capacity. We have a new treaty in Africa now which opens up the sky. So we have to implement that treaty now so that we can open the sky. For me, as a traveler, sometimes it's easier and cheaper to fly from, let's say, Abidjan to Lisbon with TAP Portugal than to fly from Abidjan to Dakar. It costs more to fly Abidjan-Dakar than to fly Abidjan-Lisbon. So these are the things we need to fix if we want to attract more tourists on the continent, if we want to develop our capacity and put forward our heritage, our culture. Also the visa policy, which is also a strain for tourism. As an African, there are many countries on the continent where I need a visa as a Malian. So we really need to have a visa-free Africa, at least for Africans and also for international travelers, if we want to really... I would remind you that every year we have 1.2 billion tourists traveling, and we are attracting only 70 million.
Yeah. Again, hold the thoughts, because I'm going to come back to air travel and visas. But let's just bring in this idea of kind of heritage and culture as a tourism draw, because I think certainly in East Africa and South Africa in the past, I think we were quite lazy. We said, come and look at our elephants. And yet you come from a country with a long and deep history and an ancient civilization. I just wonder to what extent you are able to use that as a draw card.
Oh, definitely we should use our heritage, our culture. As I said, Marrakesh is doing well, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt also is doing well with the pyramids. Mali has a very bright, a very ancient civilization in cities like Timbuktu, Djenné, Dogon country. Unfortunately, in Mali today we have all these security concerns. Before we had these terrorist groups settling in the northern part of Mali, Timbuktu used to be a tourist spot. And many investors were transforming private houses into guest houses. So we saw a development in tourism, in handicrafts in Timbuktu. Unfortunately, all that stopped when the terrorist groups came from Algeria and settled in the northern part of Mali. But any and every African country has a culture, has a heritage to develop and to foster. And definitely we have a lot to offer to international travelers. And what Portugal is doing, Portugal can share it with all the African countries, how to develop leisure tourism, intellectual tourism, historical tourism. For example, I see people when I tell them that I am from Timbuktu, and they tell me, well, my dream, the dream of my life is to go to Timbuktu and have a Timbuktu stamp on my passport.
Yeah. And I'm going to come back to you in a minute on sort of lessons and kind of sharing knowledge about things that the state can be doing. But let's just talk about security. You raised it, and I see that's come up in some of the questions from the audience, and thank you for the questions that are coming in. But a question that I often face when I look at countries and look at tourism is the question of whether, in some ways, all of this talk is creating a kind of dangerous pro-cyclicality. So we're saying, unemployment is a problem, instability is a problem, tourism can solve that problem, but it takes one attack, as we saw in Tunisia, and the tourists disappear for 3 years or 5 years. How does one deal with that issue?
Well, unfortunately, I think Africa is not treated as it should be treated when these things happen. When you have a terrorist attack in Paris, you have 120 dead. No government says, don't go to Paris. When you have an attack on the Radisson Bamako, which we had a couple of years ago, you have 20 people dead. Almost all the world governments say, don't go to Bamako, don't go to Mali. So this is an unfair treatment because today security problem is everywhere. You can be in a metro, on an airplane, having a coffee somewhere in Paris, and you get bombed, unfortunately. So this is a world problem. It's not an African problem. But the way it's treated in the media, as far as Africa is concerned, for me, is not fair. And of course, that will stop investment in tourism on the continent if we put forward this security problem. So unfortunately, we as Africans, we don't tell the narrative, our own narrative. It's the international media like CNN, France 24, BBC, which tells our own narrative. And unfortunately, quite often, it's a negative narrative. A lot of good things are going on the continent, but they are not put forward. Yeah, we have security problem. In my own country, we do have security problem in the northern part of the country, but people are still coming to Bamako to take care of their business. Egypt went through a lot of problems, but tourists are coming back. But it takes time. So for me, as an African, as an investor who invested close to $200 million in hospitality infrastructure, I think we should change the glasses, the way we see these problems on the African continent. And we as Africans also should maybe, I don't know how, but we should also maybe take control of our own narrative and tell the good stories which are going on the continent. Yes, there are bad stories also. Yeah. But
so I think we're all optimists up here, and I imagine everyone there is, or most people there are optimists. So let's enough of the bad narrative. Let's look at some of the good stuff. And you've gone through a process of saying how does one tap into the sort of assets, tangible and intangible, and I sort of wonder what lessons you think can be drawn.
Well, one of the things we've been doing is to create a good environment for investors to come to Portugal through instruments to find loans, etc., to attract investors, to make it easier to invest in Portugal, but also at the same time to create a good environment to invest in heritage. For this, what we decided to do was to put culture and tourism working together, and also the finance ministry, which is also always crucial, to work together and look at the heritage we had that was not being used for decades, that could be a very important asset to put in the market to develop as a touristic product. It was a very tough process. We started this 2.5 years ago. It was very tough. First, a mentality problem. We had to change and focus mentalities to create this program where we identified 33 public monuments, heritage monuments, and we decided, well, let's ask the private sector to develop projects here through a concession model, and through concrete parameters of intervention. This was an amazing, I would say now, program. In the end, we were almost giving up because it was too tough. You can imagine most of these buildings are not even identified in the register. Some of them have several owners even inside the state. And now it's fantastic to look back and see it was good we didn't give up. We have most of these buildings already being renovated by the private sector. We have 500 investors looking at the program and going to trying to get the buildings. And it has been so successful. We've already opened the first hotel, which is in the interior of Portugal, and we had this concern to guarantee that this program was also a way to create anchors in the interior of Portugal to create attractiveness in places where we don't have other types of offer. And the first hotel has already opened last month in Elvas, which is in the interior of Portugal. It was a conversion of an old convent that was transformed into a hotel by a group. And now we've been, many countries are looking at this as a case study, and we are exporting the model. We are already doing it with Cabo Verde, Mozambique, Angola, and São Tomé. Again, as you said, they have many Portuguese old buildings. That are not being used. And so we decided that this was also a way we could do to use tourism as a cooperation instrument. We are doing we are acting in 3 areas with these countries. First, to train people, young people in tourism in these countries. We are doing it, bringing some students here, but doing also training sessions in these countries. We are also planning in creating a net of tourism schools in these countries. Again, to export the expertise we have in training that has been so successful. We are helping in implementing this program Revive. We called it Revive because we are giving back life to these heritage buildings, not only in Portugal, but now in several countries. And Morocco is also entering this program. And we are training these teams. We had teams from these countries coming last month to Portugal, exactly to create and implement the model in these countries. And we are at the same time creating specific financial instruments to support the development of this Revive program in these countries. So I do think this is a case study of cooperation. Looking at what we have in common, taking the best of each country to develop this program. For example, in São Tomé, we're doing it with the roças, the traditional farms of coffee plantation, cacao plantation in São Tomé. And we are using it also as an instrument to attract international investors to this program. Again, if we have a net of 500 international investors that are looking to the Portuguese Revive, I'm sure that they will be the natural also investors to go to this Revive program in these countries that are coming into the program. It was not easy, but it was incredible to see that something that looked impossible, now everyone wants to do it because it's working.
Yes.
As I said, we bought 24 September in Guinea-Bissau. It's one of our best hotels because it's on 5 acres, and it used to be the Portuguese Army officers' compound. So definitely this is a program which we can develop. We have, for example, all these old railway stations in all our countries which are abandoned now. So we can transform these railway stations into, let's say, 5-star hotels. One country which is doing quite well also in this heritage tourism is Tunisia. Tunisia used to have a large Jewish community which left the country. So they developed coming back for Jewish community to visit a very old synagogue which is in Tunisia, and it's doing quite well. And actually, during the very difficult period where tourists were not going to Tunisia anymore because of the terrorist attacks, these Jewish community were coming back to visit these old synagogues, and it really helped many hotels survive. So definitely what Portugal is developing in this heritage tourism, transforming all the houses into nice hotels, putting forward our culture, our heritage, can definitely help the continent develop its tourism sector. And one last thing, definitely we see a lot of investment going into infrastructure. PE firms are investing a lot. Big companies, international brands are investing a lot on the continent. But what I see as an entrepreneur is a lack in skills development investment. And definitely this is what we need, and I think Portugal can help a lot on developing skills on the continent.
So, we've all been to conferences that are just talk shops, and everyone kind of says the same old stuff, and nothing ever happens. So let's make this action-oriented. And we've got two people here who can do stuff. And I'm going to ask you to say you've got an official from a government that is active. What would you tell Anna to do when she goes back to the office on Monday?
I will do this, Anna. I want Portugal to help us develop our hospitality school in West Africa.
But priorities. Everyone has got a long to-do list. So what are the one or two priorities that you think, kind of Portugal and Anna should be doing in this space? I mean, you've heard what she is doing. What should she be doing more of or different?
For me, Portugal first is doing a good job in air links. TAP Portugal is flying to now many capital cities on the continent. They used to go to Bamako. They stopped. I don't know why they stopped, but they should come back. I even have a loyalty card, TAP Portugal, because they used to come to Bamako. So that definitely is, because as I said, the way for us to get more tourists is to have air links, very good air links, and at a cheaper price. Once we have that, and good visa system, I think we can double, triple the 70 million we are getting now. And as I said, what Portugal also can do is to invest in skills. This is what we lack. I can tell you, whenever we have to open a new hotel, our biggest challenge is to find trained people. So what we do, we hire our GM 1 year before we open. We hire our middle management 8 months before we open, and we hire the staff 6 months before we open. It's a cost for us. It's a huge cost. But we don't have a choice, because if you open a hotel here in Lisbon, you go to hospitality schools and you hire people maybe 2-3 months before you open. In Africa, you have to do it 1 year before
talent, yeah.
because you have to train them.
Yeah.
So definitely, we need to invest a lot in skills development, because capital is coming, but skills, it takes time to develop skills. Yeah.
Okay. And Anna, you've now got some things on your to-do list. When you're speaking to entrepreneurs and people in the industry in Africa, what do you want from them? What should they be doing or telling their governments or co-entrepreneurs?
Crucial, I agree, air connections. Just to give you an example, in the last 3 years in Portugal, we got 500, and I'm always counting, 584 new routes and air operations, and this made a difference. Of course, it helped us connect to all the countries, all the continents, namely, just an example, a small example. In 2 years, we had 2 years ago 500,000 Americans coming to Portugal. Now we have over 1 million. 2 years, and the success, air connection. Of course, then at the same time, promotion, etc. But air connection, visa issues, crucial. Again, what we've been doing is simplifying also the visa procedures, namely from non-EU citizens. As you know, we have going on agreements that is being negotiating in terms of the Portuguese-speaking countries in terms of visa, which will be also crucial for all of us. From you, I would ask, please, trust in our Revive and invest in this project. I do think it is a winning project. And my compromise, and we are doing this, is the development of a net of schools, of tourism schools in the African countries. We are starting it. We've started with some concrete actions. But we are upgrading it into permanent schools in the African countries, because I do think this is a know-how that we already have. So it's easier for us to expand. So my compromise with you, I will do it.
So as the moderator, and we're out of time, so I'm going to keep this very short. My job is to ask questions, not tell stories. But on the visa thing, I just have to. There's a famous story among journalists who cover Nigeria, and I know there's some Nigerians in the room. It's very difficult to get a visa as a journalist to go in. And a few years ago, a Western journalist thought, well, I'll just apply for a tourist visa. And he got the visa, and he arrived at the airport in Lagos, and he arrived before the Nigerian border official, and the man looked at this, he said, "What are you here for?" And the man said, I'm a tourist. And the border official said, "We have no tourists here." Denied. So I agree with you. They've got to sort out the visas. I am going to ask you to please join me in thanking our guests. So this was a really informative discussion, so thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.